With Jon Moxley out of the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament and issues with Bray Wyatt prior to his WWE release revealed, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for November 3rd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. On AEW Rampage last week, there seems to be a brewing feud between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff criticized this program for not having a proper story. If AEW doesn't do a great job of telling that story to the uninformed as opposed to just assuming that those that know, probably will not live up to their potential. My advice is to tell stories. Don't just put on matches for the sake of matches. Do not just entertain the hardcore community or the internet wrestling community. They're an important part of the community, no doubt about it. But they're not the only part. You have to tell stories that appeal to the masses if you want to be popular with the masses. Given their ability on the mic, this should be a great feud all around, but we'll have to see how it plays out. While she has become a champion in WWE and had a successful career, Natalya feels the company did not pick her up sooner due to issues with the Hart family. As she told WWE Deutschland, "When I was trying to get hired by WWE, it took me over 5 years to get hired. I was sending in tapes, I was sending in my promo pictures, I was doing whatever I could to make headway. My family, when I was trying to get hired by WWE, my family was estranged from WWE, meaning when you go back to the Montreal Screwjob, even though that happened in 1997, there was a lot of tension between WWE and the Hart family. I understand why. It was a really difficult and complicated situation. So I think it was challenging for the Hart family members, especially the younger ones, to get hired because there was all this conflict." With Big E being as big and strong as he is, you wouldn't expect him to be afraid of much. Speaking to Cultaholic Wrestling, the WWE champion admitted he has a fear of chickens. "So I was gonna say, I don't know, but I think I might know. So my dad, I don't know if this is a common thing when he was growing up in Jamaica, but when I was a kid we lived in a very residential picket fence suburban neighborhood. But there's one moment where instead of, he would go to a meat market oftentimes and buy meat, but every now and then he would buy live animals and he would put them in the backyard and then he would slaughter them in the backyard. I don't remember how old I was. I was probably somewhere between 5 to 8, and I saw him put a chicken on the block, and I apologize if this is graphic, but he cuts the chicken's head off. When you're a young kid seeing a headless chicken fly about right outside of your bedroom, I think that's what did it honestly. I think it's what scarred me, is seeing this chicken in the last minutes of his life, or her life, flying around the yard before eventually giving up the ghost. I think that's what did it honestly. I also had to help him slaughter. I didn't help him slaughter the goat, but he hung this goat on the picket fence, and I guess he cut it down the seam. It was hanging from the fence and I had to hold a skin flap of this goat. Mind you, I'm a kid. I'm a little soft kid. I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't grow up living like this. This is not stuff that I'm accustomed to. So yeah, I think that's why farm animals spook me still." WWE Hall of Famer The Godfather had one of the best runs as his pimp character was a favorite amongst fans. Speaking to GOW Media 216, he mentioned who came up with the Ho Train move. "I don't know, calling it the Ho Train, I don't know who came up with that. Me having girls was me, but the move, the Ho Train, Shane McMahon came up with that. But I don't know who came up with calling the girls the Ho Train. But Shane was like, when you do that splash, you should do something where you shoot them in and wind up. You remember Soul Train? You should do it like Ho Train." And I was like, okay, I'll try it. The name Ho Train, I don't know who came up with that. Probably me or my wife. My wife comes up with a lot of that. With her back on NXT, Mandy Rose has found a ton of success with her becoming women's champion and her stablemates being tag team champs. On the Fightful podcast, Rose touched on her finally earning the respect of Vince McMahon, which happened after she pitched her storyline with Otis. "When you had a creative idea and you wanted to go right to Vince, I would wait by his door, obviously just like everyone else, and hopefully get in there. He's a very busy man and very hard to get to. Sometimes you would wait all day and literally like he would just walk out and you don't want to bother him. There were a few interactions I had with Vince for sure. There was one right at the beginning when I first got to Monday Night Raw. Then the one with the Yoda storyline. I actually went in there and pitched that whole thing. I think that's when, coming from the reaction I got from Vince, is when I think that's when he finally was like, wow, that's an amazing idea, and I took the initiative to go in there, come up with this idea, have a plan for how it ends, the whole storyline, and how it leads up to it. I think he really gained a lot of respect from me, in that sense, because he loved the idea. But he also thought it was really cool that I took the initiative to come in because he likes that. That was a really cool moment that I had with him as well. On the Bellas podcast, Nikki and Brie mentioned an in-ring return to WWE where they noted they have no intention of doing so currently. There are no plans for Brie and I to return to the ring. I don't know if I'll ever be able to return to the ring as I am officially retired per doctors. The day that we are warming up, practicing, and maybe coming back, the Bella listeners will be the first to know. Do we miss the ring? Absolutely. We miss the WWE Universe, the Bella Army, and we would love to get back in the ring one day. It's just not anytime soon. Impact Wrestling has reportedly removed several names from their online roster page yesterday, with PW Insider noting the following names were removed from the Impact Wrestling website roster page today: No Way, Taylor Wilde, TJP, Tommy Dreamer, and Petey Williams. Williams recently started a tryout as a producer for WWE. Tommy Dreamer, of course, caused issues during his appearance on Dark Side of the Ring discussing the plane ride from hell. While Dreamer and Williams may be exceptions, PW Insider would follow up, saying sources at Impact have told them there have been no talent releases, as removal from the roster doesn't necessarily reflect their company's status. Despite Vince McMahon getting his head shaved by Donald Trump at WrestleMania, Bruce Pritchard revealed on his podcast that the original plan for Hulk Hogan's feud with McMahon was to have the chairman shave his head. There was a plan for the end of the Mr. America angle, and it was pretty much the idea was to shave Vince McMahon's head and have a hair versus mask match, and shave Vince's head. But look, it was all based on the Midnight Rider angle that Dusty Rhodes had done in Florida, and Bill Watts and everybody under the sun had done some version of it, and this was our version of it with Hogan, and it eventually would bring Hogan back. AEW President Tony Khan has taken to Twitter to let fans know that Jon Moxley will be taking time off programming. As he wrote, "Moxley has allowed me to share with you that he is entering an inpatient alcohol treatment program. Jon is a beloved member of the AEW family. We all stand with him and Renee and all of his family and friends as he shifts his focus to recovery. Jon is making a very brave choice to get help, and we're embracing his choice and supporting him however we can. Unfortunately, this means his match against Orange Cassidy in the semifinals of the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament tonight on Dynamite has been canceled. Moxley was slated to go to the finals, as we'll have to see what happens next. Many online were supportive of the star as Mick Foley responded, wishing Jon the very best. A bold and brave decision, and I know he'll be back and better than ever. Mox has a heck of a support system with great fans and an amazing wife." Sting would also show his support, tweeting, "We're all rooting for you, Jon." Former play-by-play commentator for Raw, Adnan Virk, recently spoke to Couch Potato Diary, reflecting on his short WWE run. He had this to say about working with Vince McMahon. "He went through everything. He was very detailed and said, okay, do some more of this, don't do this, avoid this, and at the end, he said, you're doing a good job and best of luck." I met with him that time. We would have a meeting on Raw at, let's say, noon, which I think was the meeting time. Oftentimes, it would get pushed back. Vince sometimes would be there, sometimes he wouldn't be, but if he was in the meeting, obviously it would have a different tenure, as he is an important guy. He's got a real presence about him. Whatever he says, people are going to do because he's the boss. I met with him again after the third show. Again, he gave me feedback, went through, okay, don't do this, do more of this. I really appreciate the fact he was willing to meet with me and give feedback. I just wish I could have done better and been there longer, but it was cool to meet him. Like I said, I have a ton of respect for him, and everyone knows growing up Vince McMahon, not just the CEO, but obviously the character of Mr. McMahon. It was really cool just to meet him and shake his hand and hear what he had to say, because he's obviously a very smart guy and a brilliant businessman. As you probably know, Bray Wyatt is no longer under a WWE non-compete clause, as new reports have come out from Ringside News saying he was difficult to get along with prior to his release. Bray Wyatt is getting even more buzz, especially his final months with WWE. We were told he was difficult to get along with, why it was also hard to find when needed, and the problems grew larger and larger with him until he was finally let go. In regards to his release being due to budget cuts, it was additionally noted that to say he was a moneymaker is based on what formula, since he wasn't part of the company's Return to Live events. So he was a moneymaker based solely on his merch, not as his contract level. Also, there were issues creatively when it came to Wyatt's burned Fiend character, as Fightful reported. Creative was also told about some major frustration around the burned Fiend angle, specifically the size, weight, and movement of the suit. Though Wyatt isn't confirmed this himself, the creative team was told that he believed it was too heavy, was going to look bad, and it would be difficult to move inside it, so it was scrapped. After news broke that Jon Moxley would be going into rehab, his wife Renee Paquette has taken to Twitter to express her gratitude to those that reached out, writing, "Thanks for this outpouring of support. Jon is every bit of the badass we all know him to be. I couldn't be more proud of him for getting the proper help he needs, and being given the space to put his health first. Couldn't possibly love this man more." And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.